Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Gerety Talk session. My name's Alex Reeves. I'm Deputy Editor at Little Black Book, and I'm joined today by a panel of three of the Gerety Grand Jury members, and we're going to have a little discussion about what was interesting in the jury room and some of the most inspiring things they saw, some of the most interesting things they saw, as well as some of the winning work, which has now all been revealed. So first up, we have Philippa Grob, sorry, I got your name wrong. I'll start that again. Philippa Grob.
Better.
No.
Hi.
We have Dora Osinde.
Hi.
We have Diana Sukopp, and they are respectively from Jung von Matt Donau in Vienna, Granny, and from Lemon Group and DDB Germany. And so we have a very well qualified trio of jurors here who know advertising inside out and have spent a long time poring over the work and drilling into it in the jury room. So first up, Philippa, let's start with you because you're at the top of my screen. What were your sort of just general reflections on being on the Gerety jury specifically? You know, it's an all-female jury. Sort of how do you reflect on that experience?
Well, first of all, I really enjoyed it, and I really like that I get to meet also other women of other countries through the grand jury, etc. Feels very nice and powerful. What I found to be very interesting was that my expectation of an all-female jury was a bit of a different one, because I expected it to be to make such a difference because we all have the same gender, and I'm on other juries a lot as well. They are mainly male juries, and I thought that feeling would make a really big difference. But in the end, because this is an international award, and what I found very peculiar was that I thought in the end sometimes it even made more difference where what cultural background we have, and not what gender we have, because we found that talking about cases, some cases we were like, okay, this is super odd. But maybe it kind of makes sense if you put it in perspective of a certain cultural background. So I found that to be very interesting. So that for me, or what I took away with me from this jury is that, yeah, it doesn't matter so much, or I'm surprised what gender we are, but how we grow up and how we tell stories, and what topics are important to us, because they are important within our society. Yeah.
Right, Dora, does that sort of chime with how you felt in the jury as well?
I need to think about it. It's an interesting point that Philippa made about the difference in cultural background, and I'm not quite sure I felt the same way. But what I did enjoy about an all-female jury, and specifically the session we had for the Grand Prix, it felt, and I'm just comparing that to my experiences in other juries that were obviously mixed. It was very refreshing to me. It was a little different. I felt the conversation was very open, and maybe again, that's just my perception. It felt like everybody was very open and ready to speak their mind. Like the conversation felt very transparent and very open, and I really enjoyed that and really appreciated the energy. And sometimes that feels the same to me when when you work on sets or different types of productions, like there is a little bit of a different energy when it's an all-female crew, these types of things. And I had the same feeling, was the same spirit in the jury conversations.
Diana, did you feel that same spirit?
And same energy? Well, I've got the fortune to be the second time on the Gerety Awards jury, so I've already seen the jury transforming from the beginning to where the award is now. And I feel completely fortunate when I'm in jury discussions, honestly, because of the diverse perspectives and backgrounds. And when do you have, especially as a creative leader, the opportunity to really dig deeply into creative work with other minds and perspectives, and makes me so much smarter, so that every time I come out of a jury room, I go to my teams and appear like this very wise, smart person that knows it all. Especially when the winners are not out. And if you can enrich those discussions with backgrounds, with everything that you're hearing and feeling in the jury room, that is very impressive. And I think that the Gerety Awards gives this safe space to really express feelings. I have the same feeling like Dora in terms of it's really open, because it allowed me to bring my whole self into the jury room. I haven't been part of the discussion this year, but I've been in the jury room, and that was an in-person jury experience. Woo, creepy. For the past juries, and I can highly recommend to join those panels if you have the opportunity to represent your country, your craft, your experiences inside of a jury room. Please do, because it makes yourself, it's like a masterclass in creativity. It makes yourself so much better prepped, also in discussions with clients. You know that we have these ongoing discussions in Germany, Alex. They, oh, you only celebrate yourself, isn't it? Yeah. So it makes you so much better prepped for that. And on the other hand, it gives you the opportunity to open up your network. You meet people you might have never met before, or the opportunity to meet ever again. And now you've got those phone numbers and WhatsApp groups and conversations and LinkedIn profiles, and you can always come back to that. You can always go back to your fellow jury members and say, do you remember when we discussed this piece? I've got the exact same questions coming up for the next work, and can I dig into your brain for that, please, once again? And they will always come back and help you. So highly recommended. And I also have the same feeling that it doesn't necessarily have something to do with your gender, but I think it has something to do with emotional intelligence, that the Gerety Awards is so highly up my ranks, because when you've got people who come together to worship and value creativity in this strong way, like this jury always does, then you've got the opportunity to look beyond case studies and beyond impressions and beyond the written submissions, and that is something that is really rare, and I worship that a lot.
That makes so much sense. You talk about every time a jury meets, you know, particularly when it's physically in a room, maybe you've suddenly got this community that is formed, and that just hearing you reflect upon that, you can totally see how that would be so powerful to have, because we're all so busy, you know, we don't always have the chances to have these kinds of discussions about what's really important to what you all do. So to have that opportunity to reflect together with your peers sounds incredible.
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask, you know, how did the overall Gerety Awards experience sort of this year affect the way that you feel about the industry right now in 2022? It's a huge question, isn't it? But just personally, how did it make you feel? Philippa?
Maybe a bit more optimistic in a way, I guess. Yeah.
Was there any particular discussion or work that sort of, or was it a cumulative effect of everything that you saw that made you feel that way?
I don't know. It's really hard to put on the whole industry. Like I don't know. I don't think that a Gerety's jury is representative for the whole industry. So that is what I find quite hard. Or maybe I misunderstood the question. But
I mean, having seen all of the work that was entered for Gerety and the work that's then gone on to win, I suppose that is a representation of the creative work that is out there. It's a sample, at least. So I suppose seeing that and discussing it will have affected the way that you feel about creativity right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a few things to say to that, actually. But what I found very interesting was that we in Austria, we always look at these great American cases. And we see that as an example of great advertising, and we look up to that. And then I haven't been on that many international juries, so that was very interesting for me. And then you have all these international works in there, and there's a lot of shit in there, to be honest. And there's a lot of American cases that aren't that good.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, okay, our advertising isn't that bad in the end, you know. So that I found very interesting. Because we only see those peaks when things are elected, but before that, in the process of electing things, you get a lot, and it's not sorted out yet, and you see that yeah, there's also a lot of bad work everywhere. I found that refreshing in a way. Maybe that sounds sarcastic, but yeah.
And that's very honest. Yeah, you need to see bad work to know what the good work looks like. Yeah, and to see it from, it's a really interesting point about American work particularly. To be able to see just the sheer quantity that gets done in America, you realize, okay, it can't all be these amazing case studies that we all see at all the award shows. So yeah, totally makes sense. Dora, do you have any like big reflections on how the process made you feel about the industry?
Yeah, big reflections. I don't know, but certainly some. I'm generally quite critical of the advertising industry. I'm generally quite critical of awards. So I must say it did make me feel quite positive. Again, I really enjoyed the conversation with the other jury members, and looking at some of the work, like the RGB Black, the Black Elevation Map, the Gay Raptor. There were some cases in there that did what I like when ads can do that, or when projects in the advertising space can do that. And that is mean something and do something and actually be something that means something to the consumer, means something to the people who it's for. And that made me feel quite good. There were some cases in there that actually had purpose and weren't just there to be award cases, weren't just there for us ad people celebrating ourselves. And that I really enjoyed. It made me actually feel quite hopeful and positive about the industry. And it's very rare that I would say that about the advertising industry.
It's done a rare thing for you, this process.
Yeah, for sure.
Giving you some optimism. That's really great to hear.
Yeah.
Diana, do you share that optimism?
Yeah, definitely. I might come from a different angle, though. I celebrate creativity. I think it's powerful, not only for our industry, by the way. Creativity is a word that it's an asset that people look in Harvard Business Magazine for CEOs for. So creativity is not only I draw a thing and then I bring it to my mother and then she thinks I'm a really good drawer or illustrator or anything. Creativity really has the power to change the world, and to celebrate that and not destroy it is something that I really, really enjoy. And the other thing is I'm quite proud of our industry, especially the way we've come. And I think it's definitely on a good way forward, putting creativity to work for companies who see their purpose in getting attention to something where they stood up. Brands feel now opinions and form opinion much more than politicians do, and they take a stand, and we could be part of this. So I think yeah, I do love advertising. It's quite an odd thing to say for a German, so we're proud of our industry, but I really am. I love what we do, and I haven't seen Elon Musk going on stage and say, oh God, I hate cars, I hate automotive. It's just really not my thing. So I think, so for one thing, I think the industry has got a lot of potential, and hopefully we get some new talent interested in what we do. And the other thing is, all across the festivals and award shows this year, I've seen diverse work strive up. I've seen, I mean, look at this, the Grand Prix goes to India, which is amazing. We've never looked at this country we looked at it from a tech perspective and said, oh, Bangalore is going to be the next Silicon Valley. But now from a creative perspective, seeing that India is on the rise for Asia, that is astonishing. A bit embarrassing for Germany as well, because we put so much money into things that will never make it to the top. But on the other hand, it's amazing to see how this country is taking the opportunity. And then I'm also really proud of Germany this year, because in the craft section, Service Plan has done an amazing job. And this is also for the very first time, I think, that our industry is celebrating each other and not so much looking at that, and I don't like them, so I'm not going to brag about their work. I think Penny the Wish it's not only a piece of advertising. I think that history will teach this film as a lesson for a whole generation in the next years to see this is exactly how the feeling of a century comes together. This is how the time felt for parents and for kids, and capture this in such an amazing emotional way that it really makes me cry all the time. And I don't even have kids. I mean, what will this done to parents who experience this in a very different way? And also, I've seen a lot of innovation this year in the health sector, especially, where it's not only, creativity is not only put to use to communicate about that, it's put to use to really help people make their lives better. I will always be me for Dell, is giving back voice, which has been a very hard process until Dell discovered that with these words and with the book, you can create an experience that you can share. And it's a horrible disease and nobody wants to catch it, but making out the better out of it, that gives hope to families and people. It really makes a difference in their lives. And Tune Out Pain for Nurofen is doing that on a very high level as well. There are some equality pieces which I've found astonishing for brands. And I think if we could see that, if we could celebrate this, if we could teach talent that purpose and brands can fit together, tell a whole story about it, do the work first and then communicate about it, do it not the other way around, but people will celebrate the effort. Then I think we get talent interested in what we do and how we move forward and how we can strive. And if we can celebrate this as an industry together and discuss it, it will all make us better. And then maybe we are proud again of what we do.
Wow.
But can I just say something? Because I have the feeling that not every brand has to do purpose-driven work. And what I really liked about the Gerety Awards was that they have a category for humor. And I think humor is a very powerful thing. And I missed it a lot in advertising lately. And I have the feeling that any kind of brand, and I don't think that, I don't know, a sugary lemonade has to take a stance on women empowerment. I mean, I think it's a bit overdone. And I really wish, like, looking into the future that and I think there are great cases. I don't want to say that there are very, very good cases, and brands like the Wound Story case, for instance. I mean, that's a brand fit and it totally makes sense, and it's a really, really good case. But with all the entrants in the Gerety, what I have the feeling that everything has to have like social purpose or purpose in society, and I don't think it does. I think making people laugh is also very powerful and has purpose. And yeah, I wish that in the future that we can go back to not only making purpose-driven advertising. So I don't know.
But to have a purpose doesn't mean that it has to be socially. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's what I felt and what I see, right? I mean, that any kind of brand, it's about, I don't know, racism or female empowerment, and that's what you do, and everybody's kind of like jumping the bandwagon in a way, right?
Well, if your brand is about that, that's brilliant. If your brand is taking a stand for that, congratulations. I would argue that if your brand is all about sugary lemonade, then maybe you should look at it in our times to see if you can work from the product side on it. But humor and purpose doesn't blend each other out, and it's not an either or. I can tell a story in a very humorous way, in a very light-hearted way, but it still can have a purpose. So for me, it's not necessarily an exclusion of it. And I mean,
no, it shouldn't be, but I felt that it was. That's what I'm trying to say. That I have the feeling that's why our industry is going towards that it's either or, and yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the times that we're living in, right? I mean, advertising reflects zeitgeisty, what our society, our planet, our environment is about. And a lot of companies now have CSR, which is I think the corporate way for purpose, look at social responsibility. And I think it's necessary. So if advertising is reflecting on that and the communication is reflecting on that, it's because the companies have put massive money into these departments to make things work. And this is how they are evolving forward. So I think this is also a good thing about creativity. You said that you love storytelling. So the stories of our time are definitely different than they were for 20 years ago, but it doesn't mean that they can't be light-hearted and emotional. It can be deep and can be light at the same time. And hopefully we get to tell those stories. That would be wonderful.
It's interesting that you come onto this discussion of purpose and of humor, because I was and of how, you know, the world is driving the tone that our advertising takes. Because one of the questions I was really going to ask is, obviously we're in a very unique time in history right now. You know, we've had this huge pandemic. There's so much going on in the world. We had 2021 where a lot of this work was made, and maybe towards the beginning of 22 was in a way, for many places in the world, kind of a brief respite from the pandemic was easing off to a degree. And it was before, you know, we had war in Europe again erupting in 2022, and you know, sort of looming economic troubles as well. So looking at that like big picture, I might have expected that maybe, you know, the end of 2021, beginning of 2022 was a sort of celebratory time where you would find a lot of optimism, a lot of maybe humor, a lot of entertainment, and people having fun, and also maybe just advertising for just sort of pure go out and buy stuff. You can do stuff again. Do you feel like that tone, maybe that's imposing a narrative that didn't really exist? But did you feel in any of the work that you saw that the world was driving the advertising industry in that way?
As I said, the zeitgeist reflects always in our community. And yes, there is work that is reflecting this. Of course, I can talk about a very particular piece because a brilliant team at DDB Berlin did this. The Truth Wins for Reporters Without Borders was created and solely for the purpose to get information out, to find loopholes and firewalls. And we were looking at the press censorship index, not we, the team. I'm just the one who's opening doors. Tobias and Sandro, and I think you already met those two maniacs. They found loopholes for the press censorship index countries that were at that time declining the most. And then the war in Russia hit, and everything changed like 2 weeks before launch. And yes, it's a very heavy topic. And on the other hand, if the world turns, you have to react. It's how we do this. And I'm sure that, of course, there will be times where we all embrace that we can now travel more freely again, that the pandemic is not having the full claws around us. But there are also wonderful examples with sarcastic and humorous tonality. You're tackling these topics, and superhumans, by the way, for it's an inclusive film. It tells us with such a humorous story that only the Brits can do, by the way. That you see, yeah, it is possible. It is a bit true. I'm always a bit envious on those who can't do this, but it's brilliant. And they're doing so much for the community in doing this in the exact opposite way that you would think of.
Sure.
And yeah, I would highly root for all those ideas, but changing stuff within zeitgeist and the surrounding you're living in, that is what we do.
Yeah, those are some really, really useful cases and great pieces of work to celebrate that definitely have been, you can see the pressures of the narratives that are going on in the world sort of playing out in them. I wonder if either of the other two of you have any thoughts on any work that you saw or discussed that you felt like particularly driven by this historic moment that we're in, or maybe it was just escapist, because I felt like we always need a bit of escapism more and more these days. Was there anything that you discussed that you thought was particularly like part of that narrative? Maybe Dora, did you see any?
I mean, obviously the Penny, the Wish film plays right into that topic, and as Diana put it, right, it meant a lot to many people, and people that kept talking to me about it, even outside of this jury, people were tearing up and they loved the film so much. Interestingly enough, in our grand jury conversation, there was a little bit of a conversation about brand fit, which maybe also speaks to Philippa's point about, does every brand need to be in that purpose-driven marketing space? And sometimes it feels a little forced, or it can feel a little forced, that just because there might be a statement to make that's important, does it have to be that or this brand that makes it? Nonetheless, I think The Wish is a great piece. The other thing that stood out to me about The Wish, though, because I revisited the film, because I knew you were going to ask about the state of creative in Germany, or if there's any particular German case that stood out. And I revisited the film before entering the call, and I realized that the cast is very white, if not all white, which feels a little not necessarily modern. If we look at society in Germany right now, and 30 to 40% of Germans are actually of some other than German background, that's almost a little weird to me in 2022. And again, I think it is a great film, and it talks about a very important topic, and I think it was a great approach to the topic. So looking at creative in Germany, I think it does lack diversity sometimes.
Yeah, that's an important reflection on one of these things, I suppose, like what you were saying, Philippa, you get to see international work from everywhere and reflect, and that allows you to reflect back on your own market and sort of how you fit into that global sort of spectrum of work. So did any of the other of you there have any thoughts on German or Austrian work and how it sort of has a place in global advertising?
But I think this was a good year for Germany and Austria, to be honest. I mean, with Penny and also with a case that our agency did for the Vienna Tourism Board. I think these were good cases, and yeah, I think we can be proud of that. Great.
We've talked for quite a while now, so I don't want to drag it out too long, but I would quite like to know, just quite a big general reflection, but what would you like to see more of next year, having seen the entries and the winners this year? Philippa, I guess your answer is maybe humor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to see more of that. I think it has a lot of purpose to make people genuinely laugh, especially in hard times. And I think, I mean, depending on the brand, but yeah, there's a lot of meaning to that.
I think it's really important. The humor category is an interesting sort of statement of intent there, and it's good.
And there was one case entered because Diana, you said about achieving to do both. There's the umbilical cord case that does both, for instance. So Yeah, more of that, please.
I actually have the exact same case on my list of things I would love to see more of. I thought it was, obviously it spoke about a very important topic, but it was funny. It was weird, like it was very quirky and I loved it. It takes you a moment to get it, which I also enjoy, like also treating our audience as smart people that will get the joke and you can actually take them on that journey. And I love that piece. So I would also love to see more of that. And then the other piece I also really enjoyed was the gay raptor, mostly because it was one, for this particular brand, it was quite a brave thing to do, but also because they actually followed through on it. Like it wasn't just the spoofy social media post, but it ended up actually being executed in different cities. And then the actual gay raptor showed up. I loved that it was kind of coming full circle. They actually put their money where their mouth is. And I really enjoyed that. So I would also love to see more of these cases where it's not just a brand saying they are for or against a certain topic, but actually executing against that. I really enjoyed the Gay Raptor case as well.
Yeah, totally. Agreed.
Diana, do you have any, what's on your wish list for next year's Gerety Awards?
I think that's a very good question. I guess my wish would be to reflect on what Dora said, that diversity is becoming more and more common and not just something that you force into casting, or when you think of the community that you're communicating with at the last point when execution comes, but from the beginning, and include them already from the beginning so that you can make your whole piece around it. And I would like to reduce complexity. I think most of the cases that I've seen this year all across the juries is the very complex work that tries to change conversations and behavior, and then you've got multiple messages and channelings, and it all worked out to become brilliantly orchestrated around multiple channels. But I found some of the simple works so powerful, and if you look at the soul piece, that's why I think the Grand Prix in India with the Unfiltered History Tour is so astonishing, because it took you from the moment in the museum to the other sides of the world just through immersive audio. And you're just there, you can hear the voices, you can hear the story behind it, and it's so vice. There the brand fit is, I think, no doubt. I would love to see those pieces with the shit, I wish I would have done that moment.
Yeah, there's some incredible ones like that this year. It's really good to see the different kinds of work that have, if you look at the Grand Prix, they are quite distinct from each other. So there's a lot of the various kinds of inspiration to be drawn there. But thank you so much to the three of you for taking the time to share your thoughts. There's a lot to dig into in the Gerety Award winners this year. So hopefully everyone will go onto their website and check out all of the work they might not have seen, because it's all incredible. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time, the three of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.